everybody. This is Joyce Riley, Dave on Clyde. We all know knowledge is power, and that's why we call this the Power Hour. Well, it doesn't seem as powerful, at least on the introduction when Dave is not here. It just doesn't seem right. He's got a radio interview right now, and it is hitting the fan, listeners. People are not happy about hearing about the fact that they were told a lie. Yep, they were told a lie. Well, you were told another lie, and it's called aspartame, the safety of aspartame. And joining us today is a lady who deserves, so much credit. Listeners, we've been following the aspartame issue. I thought I knew aspartame was bad, but until I saw the DVD Sweet Misery, I had no idea. Joining us today is a journalist who has created Sweet Misery by Sound and Fury TV, and that's her production company. Listeners, this is awesome. I am not kidding you. This is a must-have. Nobody will ever even touch a package of aspartame after you see Sweet Misery. Thank you, Cori Brackett, for joining us today on the Power Hour.
Hi, Joyce. Thanks for having me. That's a great introduction.
Oh, I mean it. Listen, last night, now, you know, I get so many DVDs to review and so many books every day to review that I thought, okay, I'll get some highlights out of this, and then I'm going to shut it off because I got to get to bed because it's, like 10:30 at night, and I got to get up so early. I could not shut this off. It is so good. I mean, and you're talking to somebody here who thought they understood aspartame, has had Betty Martini on, has had Dr. Blaylock on, all these people. You've done a phenomenal job, girl.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I just wish I had known about it before.
No kidding. I bet you would have, because now tell us your story as to why you got involved in this.
Well, I used to drink myself. I used to consume about 6 to 8 cans or so of diet soda a day for about 20 years since it first came on the market. And
how many sodas a day for 20 years?
About 6 to 8. Sometimes more.
Whoa, okay.
I would pretty much always have a diet soda in my hand. Sometimes I would forget that I had it and leave it someplace and go start another one after the one was half full, but I would always have one in my hand. And in 2002, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which when I started doing research, I started noticing a link between that and aspartame usage and went, gee, is there any truth to this? Is there any, merit to this? It seems like there's a lot of controversy. And so I went and started talking to people around the country. My husband and I took a trip across pretty much everywhere and went and talked to people and got information out of them.
You really did. And I want to add that I'm sorry that Dave wasn't able to. He was up all night doing another radio show, and unfortunately he's involved in the 9/11 issue and the fact that we've been lied to about that, and so that's really important. But he was going to do some clips for me, and he said, well, get about 3 good clips. Find the time zone and time on the tape, and I'll do them. I had over 21 by the time I finished of just major statements, and I could have done many, many more. I mean, this is just power-packed full of information. And as you watch these physicians talk about their own involvement with aspartame and their patients' experiences, I had no idea. It does not take 20 years of drinking Diet Cokes to get in trouble with aspartame, does it?
No, I heard one doctor mention that you could drink 1 soda a day for a while and start to notice problems. It builds up in the body and accumulates, and the body can't get rid of a lot of the breakdown products in it that travel through the blood into the blood-brain barrier. So you end up with neurological issues, and that's part of the reason why they can be so varied.
Well, I just want to say here, if you are out there right now using aspartame, which is called Equal. What are some of the other names that aspartame comes under? Do you know some of them?
Those are the 2 primary ones in the States. I know in Europe it's Canderel and I think E951. I think those are the 2 that are also the labels. But
well, that's something I'd want to take is E951 in my coffee.
Appetizing?
Yeah, that sounds like something good.
But one quick way to find out if aspartame is in a product is if there's a phenylalanine warning on there for phenylketonuria. And if it says that, if it says attention phenylketonuria contains phenylalanine, then you can pretty much rest assured that it also contains aspartame.
Well, you know, I have been concerned that maybe they're not putting some warnings on these labels any longer because it is being used in so many items. And I see that I'm thinking that maybe they might be bridging that gap of not having to warn the PKU people. Explain why there's a warning for phenylalanine or PKU on the package.
Well, phenylketonuria are they have a genetic disorder where they cannot metabolize phenylalanine. And so they were told in the very beginning when aspartame was passed, that was one of the few codicils that they were able to get through that they had to put a warning on there. In very fine print, I might add, and that was how I realized that there was a very distinct cause and effect relationship for me because I had those breath mint tabs for under the skin. I was given those when I couldn't see, I couldn't talk, I couldn't raise my arms over my head. I was in very bad shape and had one of those without realizing it and started deteriorating again. And then I finally took a close look at it and realized that it had that warning and it contained aspartame. So and I thought I was beyond all of that, and I got fooled myself.
It is it's an amino acid, correct?
Mm-hmm.
PKU is phenylalanine is an amino acid. Now, in this whole mess that started, give us the first date anybody ever knew of this chemical that was referred to as aspartame.
Well, according to the company that first got it on the market, GD Searle, that would be in 1965. And according to their literature, one of their scientists was working on an ulcer drug when he happened to, accidentally get some of the aspartame substance on his finger, and instinctively he licked it, noticing a sweet taste. And
now, that's the prevailing story, correct? Right. That's the alleged story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, may or may not be true. We don't know.
Right. That's the official pronouncement.
Yes. So G.D. Searle, under the direction of and headed by, of course, Donald Rumsfeld. And, man, that quote that you have by Donald Rumsfeld back in the early 1980s, that is just priceless. And I am so glad that you have the original footage. Listeners, you will actually see the black and white footage from a number of the FDA people touting the safety of this, how they've tested it. It's the most tested drug in history, and including, you're going to see a very young Donald Rumsfeld getting ready to poison America, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ironically, I didn't even realize that Donald Rumsfeld was the head of GD Searle from the mid-1970s through the passage of aspartame by the FDA. I didn't know that at all until our very first interview when his name was mentioned, and I practically fell out of my chair and did some more research, and then we found out, my husband and I found out what was going on.
Well, that is interesting because in 1983, by the way, listeners, I just want to, tell you that he was president and CEO of GD Searle Pharmaceutical Company, at which time he took a sabbatical, became after he got, greased the chute for aspartame. Then he went to Iraq, the Middle East, and started selling weapons over there, involved in the biological and chemical weapons industry in the Middle East. And so he's, had a very full history, very full life, this man, in what he has done without any kind of conscience, it seems like. And, it's very interesting the way they point out. And you had a former FDA commissioner on the video.
Mm-hmm.
Who was I'm trying to remember, the older gentleman with white hair that was so good.
That would have been Attorney Jim Turner. And he actually worked with Dr. John Olney.
That's right.
Way back in the day when John Olney had found that much of the environmental insults, as much as 95%, were of unknown origin. And his theory was that these can cause problems. One of them was MSG, which he had discovered caused holes in the brains of rats. And then he talked to this attorney, Jim Turner, who heard from Dr. John Olney that aspartic acid in aspartame was doing similar things to the brains of mice in the lab, and so they therefore pursued the issue further.
All of this information is there. This you have got, Jim Turner did a phenomenal job in this. Was it Jim Turner or Ed Turner?
Jim Turner.
Yeah, Jim Turner did a phenomenal job. And I saw Ed Johnson, who was an attorney, assistant state attorney there in Texas, was there when I lived there. And I was shocked to find out that he had a brain tumor and that aspartame was the reason they figured it out. And I like his definition of what was that, of evidence?
Circumstantial evidence?
Circumstantial evidence, yeah.
Yeah, he got that from one of his judges. He mentions that if you wake up in the morning and you see snow on the ground, you had gone to sleep at night and there was no snow on the ground, you didn't see it snow, you didn't see the snow falling from the sky, but you see the snow in the morning, it wasn't there at night, you can reasonably assume that it snowed during the night.
I think that is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I got to use that. Yeah, that was Judge John Wood that was assassinated there in Texas, who had made that statement, and that is an excellent way to look at what we're talking about here, was because they're always wanting to say there's no evidence, there's no evidence, there's no evidence. There is plenty of evidence.
Right. It just doesn't get to the surface very often.
No, it doesn't. And the one girl, I mean, you interview so many people there that just, it's tragic. She had 70 of the 90 symptoms that aspartame gives you. Now, we're going to talk about those symptoms when we get back from this break. And wait till you hear about a lady who is in prison for 50 years. Oh, it's incredible. What a story. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with Cori Brackett. You can get this by calling 877-817-9829. Get Sweet Misery DVD. We'll be right back. 4 minutes.
I think sprayer in America today than they were a couple.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Joyce Riley. Davon Kleist is away on a radio show. I got to tell you that, not because it's more important, but let me tell you, 911 is a huge issue. We got to keep banging this drum and keep getting the people awakened, just like we do with aspartame. And joining us today is Cori Brackett, who has put out a production that you must see. I mean, this is one that you're going to want to invite all your friends and family over and say, okay, sit here and watch this. You will not even touch a package of it after you see this DVD. And like I said, I thought I knew about how bad it was. I had no idea. Now, the DVD is, and now how long is it, Cori?
It's 90 minutes long.
90 minutes, and it is just, it seemed like it went by. I could not stop it. It is, it's just power-packed. I mean, it's just like one hit after another. And this is serious business, listeners. If you are drinking, and I've had people email me and say, Joyce, when you cover aspartame, I have to turn it off because I'm drinking NutraSweet in my coffee, or I'm having Equal in my tea. Well, don't turn this off right now because it may save your life. We've got a couple of callers, and I'll get to them in just a second. But tell us what the symptoms are. Give us a few of the symptoms.
Well, in 1988, I think it was, 80% of the complaints to the FDA were about aspartame, and there were 92 symptoms.
I want everybody to hear that again. 80%, listeners, of all the complaints that went to the FDA were regarding aspartame. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead.
It was huge. I obviously won't list them all, but some of the ones that I've run across myself or, from other people have been confusion, dizziness, headaches, memory loss, seizures, slurring of speech, and then conditions like fibromyalgia, Parkinson's disease, lupus, multiple sclerosis, ADD, weight gain, which is a symptom which I found very ironic because when I stopped drinking diet soda, I lost 70 pounds.
What?
Mm-hmm. I stopped trying to lose weight and finally lost the weight, whereas when I was trying really hard to lose the weight, I couldn't, even from near starvation diet.
And I just want to add, I was a kidney transplant nurse, and we had an order usually to put a 6-pack of diet soda at every diabetic patient's bedside. Mm-hmm. And that's what they were to drink all day long. I mean, that is criminal to be doing that. They were all overweight. I mean, they were heavy-set people who were drinking diet soda, and it just didn't seem to be working. They were calorie restricted, and what you say is true. But the American Dietetic Association, the American Medical Association, all these organizations say that Equal and then NutraSweet, aspartame are safe, which just boggles my mind. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dr. Roberts in the documentary mentions that and how Equal has been a sponsor to most of those places, and then you start to see the whole thing making more sense.
That's right. So when you start talking about things like confusion, not being able to think correctly, I mean, a lot of these things, everybody says, well, so what? I got that. But they build and build